Let's get started. This question comes to us from R, and R writes this: Dear we, my LCMS church is promoting a method for growing the church. It seems totally secular and focused on numerical growth rather than preaching and teaching the word. What is the Christian's response to something as such as this? Thanks, R. R, I'm going to bring up an interesting answer for this. Back in my undergraduate days, I was actually trained in finance and economics to be a financial broker. And I was trained to look at a business and do a SWOT analysis of that business to identify their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities and threats. I was trained to actually look at a balance sheet, to interpret an income and expense report, to come in and develop an effective strategy for a vision and mission statement and marketing of the church. These are what I like to call business tools or CEO tools. Those were the tools that I was given in my undergraduate studies. Then I went off to seminary, and when I was at seminary, I was given a whole different set of tools. I was given the tools of a pastor, the tools of the church. I was taught how to proclaim the word of God, how to go to a deathbed of somebody dying and minister the gospel into them in their last moments, to come to a couple that's struggling and to apply law and gospel in premarital and marital counseling. These are what I like to call pastoral and church tools. Now, the reason why I bring this up is this. The church, the pastor, definitely needs to use and to actually implement different business and CEO tools. In other words, it's good for a church to have a very clear and concise balance statement. It's good to have a good and clear income and expense report. It's good to understand what we do with our resources and our assets, to be good stewards of the gifts that God has given us. Even marketing, it's good to have good signage, or even let people know what time the church has its services, that it even exists in a community. That's all good. But here is where the rub happens, and this is back to your question, where my concern would be is this. The concern is when the pastoral tools are exchanged, the tools of the church are exchanged for the business tools. In other words, Mark Thompson, an old friend of mine, used to say this to us. He said, when it comes to the pastor and the church, the pastor is to work with the majority of the time with the tools that he has been given. In other words, when the pastor forsakes the tools of the word and sacrament, the ministry of the gospel, his pastoral training, when he exchanges that for the ways of the business, that is where the rub and that is where the concern happens. Because when we go that route, we have to understand that the business ways, those are just simply business. They're effective ways to run a good business, but they do not minister the gospel of the forgiveness of sins. So in other words, back to your question again, to repeat one more time, I would not be concerned about those CEO and business tools insofar as that they're not replacing the pastoral and the church tools that are given to the pastor and church. So I hope that helps, and we'll catch you next time.